Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in with us. My name is Kenia Reyes, and it is a privilege to be joined today by the editors of the new book produced by the Biblical Research Institute, The Sabbath in the New Testament. I want to welcome Dr. Eckhard Mueller, who is a retired Associate Director of the Biblical Research Institute, and Dr. Ika Mueller, Associate Professor of New Testament at the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, as well as the Assistant Dean of the Seminary at IS. We want to welcome you both, and we are so thankful that you are joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks for this. It's great. I'm glad to be with you.
I'm very glad that you could be with us today, and I know that we will have a very interesting conversation on this new publication. We have so many questions, and I know that those watching also have many questions on this new book. And as you all know, there are quite a number of books on the Sabbath already on the market, books by Adventist authors, and also quite a number by authors of other denominations. So why did the Biblical Research Institute feel that the topic is so important that two new volumes would be needed, one on the Old Testament and one on the New Testament? We are going to start with you, Dr. Eckhard.
Okay. Yes. See, we had a book, a scholarly book, which was published by Review and Herald years ago, and this scholarly book is out of print. There are still popular versions, but it was felt that it was necessary to engage again. There is more to be said about the Sabbath. Evangelical people have published and have partially presented new arguments in favor of Sunday keeping, and we felt it was necessary to respond. But in addition to that, yes, we ourselves have to learn more about the Sabbath, so it's not all exhausted. What is there? There is always more to do. Also, there is a certain movement of rediscovery of the Sabbath. Yeah, so you have people now, I have quite a number of books which were written mostly by evangelical people, but also mainstream Protestants who rediscover the Sabbath from different perspectives. So, for example, from the perspective of rest and so on. The issue is, while they have great things to say about the Sabbath, for them the Sabbath can be any day.
Yes.
Yeah. So while they explore that issue of rest and community and worship, it is still a little different. I'm saying they are good to read, but there is something missing. Now, the Catholic Church has also engaged in the dialogue, as you may know. There was, in 1998, there was an apostolic letter called Dies Domini, that means the Day of the Lord, which focused strongly on the Sabbath. And then later there was an encyclical letter dealing with environmentalism. And in that context, also Sabbath and Sunday was mentioned. I can show you the volume 1, which is in print, and the volume 2, the cover looks very similar. I don't know if Ike wants to add something.
Yes.
Sure. I think that beyond the things that were already mentioned, I think if we are to, we cannot stay stagnant on things that are important to us. There always needs to be a reevaluation and a look at things. It's easy for things to become stale. And I think if something is the Word of God, there's depth to it and a profound deepness that isn't exhausted with a book that was written 10, 20, or 100 years ago. There's always a new aspect that can be incorporated, new arguments to be honed, new things to look at. And so we need to substantiate and deepen our understanding. That is what living and growing faith is. And so I am also under no illusion that this will be the final word on it. In fact, I hope not. There will be other books on the Sabbath that will be published, and I know of friends of mine and colleagues that are writing on the Sabbath as well, and adding a new dimension, a more experiential dimension to it, and this all complements the strength of the argument that we have, and the contribution that the Sabbath gives to and meaning to our life.
That was
yes. Yeah, see, I mean, for us also, it's very crucial as Adventists. I mean, we are followers of Christ. Christ kept the Sabbath, and the Sabbath is a creation ordinance, as well as the marriage is. So these are issues that are at the heart of Adventist theology. And yes, we could have written more. Actually, in the beginning, we envisioned 4 volumes, because we did not deal with the history of Sabbath or Sabbath in different cultures and so on. So therefore, there's much more to say. This is more the biblical side of the issue.
Yes, I think that we do appreciate that there is an Old Testament and a New Testament portion of these books. And that is very important when we discuss the Sabbath and the importance of the Sabbath. And as you both mentioned, the relevance also of the Sabbath today and our identity as well as Seventh-day Adventists. But speaking on just how you wanted 4 volumes, originally it was thought to be 4 volumes of this publication. I also heard that it took more than 10 years to produce these volumes, and that the authors who had submitted their chapters early updated them later on. Can you explain why the process is so long? I know we are all intrigued to know why it takes so long to prepare these publications, because people are just so excited to get their hands on them.
Yeah, so we have an international group of scholars here. And all of them are busy. So they are teaching in university settings, and they are not just waiting for us because they have nothing to do, but we approach them and I say, can you write a chapter for us? Okay, then you have to give them at least half a year, because typically they are overloaded, sometimes a year. So you have to find authors, then they write the manuscript, and it comes to our larger committee, the Biblical Research Institute committee, and it is read there. And because you have about 40 scholars, most of them have to say something. Yeah. And if you present a paper there, it's quite a challenge, more challenging, some feel, than to defend a dissertation with all these people. And so it goes back to the author. Then the author needs time for revisions. You have then to bring that back for a second reading. And then in this case, you have also, again, changes oftentimes before it is edited. But it also happens that authors don't deliver. Yeah, so you ask someone, and after a year he said, I cannot do it. So you have to find another author. Or in some cases, we felt it was not completely meeting our expectations. So that we had to look for another author or work on co-authorship, and that prolongs the project. On the other hand, it is very strongly peer-reviewed.
I think that it's so important to know that this is a project. These are projects that they have a long process for a reason. We are trying to make sure that the best quality is given to our readers, those who are interested in learning more about the Sabbath, who want to know what the Old Testament as well as the New Testament has to say about the Sabbath. So I know we appreciate all the hard work that goes into it, all of the scholars who have come together to put their little grain of salt to be able to bless the church as a whole. Now, what I do want to know is when we are preparing this publication, who is your intended audience? Because I know that we've mentioned that scholars have come together to prepare this, so it might be a very scholarly publication. But what about the average church member like myself? I want to know more about the Sabbath. I'm interested to hear what the Bible has to say about the Sabbath. How can I be able to receive this information, even though the book might be a bit scholarly for myself?
I think that's a really good question, and I think there's multiple audiences for this. Certainly the scholars, and I think that reiterates that scholarly nature, and this is not just for within our own community, but also to the outside community, and that's why we've taken a lot of care. Good works take years to produce. If you look at a good commentary that is written, then you'll recognize very quickly it'll take several years and the expertise of somebody that has actually studied and often written their dissertation on a specific commentary. And so this is expertise that is gathered over many years, and that's why we have so many different authors as well that come from different areas and very often have written their dissertation on a topic that is exactly this or closely related to that. And so there's a scholarly community that we want to contribute to. That's for sure. But it goes beyond that to interested people. And we particularly chose to remove Greek terminology, or at least write it in a way that makes it readable for people that don't have Greek as a knowledge or as a background. And so it's written for people that they can see and grasp the main concepts of this as well. So it's not just for the scholarly community, but certainly it deals with complex issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me maybe briefly elaborate on that too. So I understand that BRI publications, Biblical Research Institute publications, don't serve only the church, but are also a witness, because we have also a mission to non-Adventist scholars and pastors and so on, I think. Yeah, so this would be part of the audience that I would envision. Then certainly scholars, pastors, in any case pastors, theology students, and then interested church members. And for others, we plan, for those who still find it too complicated, although I think it is not. So for example, we have not used Greek script, although we use here and there a Greek word, but it's transliterated, so we can read that and so on. And the same with Hebrew. So interested people, I think, can read it, as the former volume there, which is out of print, was also be readable. But there is also to come a more popular version, which makes it easier. But see, let me mention that, because Adventists could say, we know all the arguments. I mean, you have some disputed text and we know the arguments against that. Yeah, but the landscape has changed. Yeah. And there are other arguments in the meantime from other believers to which we have to respond. I think, therefore, it's important for us to be up to date, even as church members.
Yes, I definitely think that we have had a resurgence of the conversation on the Sabbath from many different perspectives. And I know that church members alike, as well as scholars who are interested in learning more about these discoveries, this research, this new perspective also on the Sabbath, will be blessed by this book just as much as they were blessed by this conversation. I know that I am very intrigued to see what we can find in the Old Testament and the New Testament volumes on the Sabbath. So I want to thank you so much, both of you, for sharing this information, for taking this time to explain the process behind preparing this publication, everything that has gone behind it. We are so grateful. As I can't speak for the whole Adventist Church, but as a member, I do want to say we are so grateful for your work, and we thank God for all of your efforts, and we know He will continue to bless us. Thank you for joining us. It is great to know that the church is producing even more content about something so important as the Sabbath. So we thank you both for joining us. We also want to thank our viewers for watching. We know that you are excited for this volume, just as all of us are here. And we want to remind you that BRI offers free materials, articles, and resources for your spiritual journey. Don't forget to visit our website at adventistbiblicalresearch.org to find more information. Make sure you go and find this book and begin your journey learning more about the Sabbath. May God bless you, and see you next time.